This is Caroline from Caroline's Adventure. We all face challenges in our lives. How do some people take those challenges and turn them into powerful results? Join me as we dig into a story on resilience, hope, and joy, and uncover lessons we can each use in our own lives. But before we start, please take a moment to show that 5-star rating button some love, and follow while you're there to be updated every time I release a new episode. Now, before we begin, a word of caution. On this podcast, we regularly discuss topics like sexual assault, suicide, and addiction, which may be disturbing to some. Please take care as you listen. And if you need support in the United States, reach out to the crisis text line at 741-741.
Well, if you really think about it, in the grand scheme, nobody knows what they're really doing. We're all just here doing it, figuring it out as we go. And tomorrow, we don't know for certain what will happen. We have our plan, we have our agenda, we have our idea. I'm going to go to college and get a 4-year degree, and XYZ is going to happen. And then 2 years in, all of a sudden, AI comes out, and the thing you got a degree in, no one's going to pay you because I can pay ChatGPT $16 a month to do what I was going to pay you $60,000 a year to do.
Yeah.
So now you're like, I don't know what to do.
And that's the thing with life in general, is every time you think you have a plan or you think you have it figured out, life yanks the rug out from underneath you, and you're like, all right, what do I do with this now that I'm playing a completely different game than I planned to play?
Yeah. A great metaphor I like to use to people, and this is going to both tie into my life story and then what led me up to here, is we always have these ambitions and these goals and these dreams until life punches you in the face.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in my case, that punch in the face was when I was 12 years old and my dad became abusive to me and my siblings. And because I'm the oldest sibling, like it ties into both being the oldest sibling, being a man, I felt like now 12-year-old Lawrence had to spring into action and save everyone else at the cost of himself. Because had I allowed myself to feel my emotions, I would have not been able to keep my little sister, who was 9 at the time, and my little brother, who he has autism and is nonverbal. So he can communicate with you. He just can't. He can technically talk. He can. He's done it. He just highly prefers not to talk to you. But in protecting them, it led me down a 3-year spiral of getting me and them out of my dad's house, and we end up living full-time with my mom, thank God for her. Navigating the court system, navigating my own mental health, getting into therapy, and realizing that, okay, what I went through sucked, but what can I make out of this? I know somebody out there had the same problem I did. Somebody out there has worse problems than I do. Somebody out there can learn from what I went through. So I just kind of hopped on YouTube one day and started making videos about how to pick better people for relationships, how to become more confident, how to figure out your fashion sense. I made videos on whatever I thought could help people. And as time went on, I realized my core underlying message is I want people to love themselves more, be more confident, and realize that even when the world tries to knock you down and it feels like everything's stacked against you, you can make something out of yourself. Because I'm 19. So yeah, I got an early start with the whole speaking thing. But if anything, being 19 has its own unique blessings and its own unique challenges with this.
Yeah.
Because you walk into a organization and it's a bunch of executives and they're having a board meeting and they're like deciding whether or not they should pay you this, they look at you and they're like, ah, that's a kid. But then they hear me open my mouth and hear me talk, and they're like, oh, that's not just a kid. And that had led me up to this point.
That's amazing. It's funny because you talk about how there are other people that have had similar circumstances, and there are other people that have had worse circumstances. But something I'm always trying to figure out is what is it that you think pushed you away from the poor me, or like, this is my challenge and I'm now going to spiral and continue that downward spiral. Like, what do you think the catalyst is that pushed you out of that and pushed you down the path of doing something with it?
Well, one of the big catalysts for me was because there definitely was a period where I had the poor me, oh, I'm just a victim, everybody's out to get me mindset. I was 12. It's kind of expected a 12-year-old gonna have that way of thinking. But the thing that really snapped me out of it was when I was 15 and I kind of just took an honest look at my life.
Wow.
Because at this point, I got acne because I'm barely taking care of myself. My hair's a mess. My teeth are a little yellow. My room stinks. Life just looks messy for me. I have terrible social skills. I had broken up with this girl I was really, really genuinely in love with, and she was a fantastic person. Like, genuinely fantastic person. I broke up with her because I felt like I wasn't good enough for her.
Wow.
And I looked in my mirror one day and I just looked at myself and what had become of me. And I said, why? Why did my dad do this to me? Mind you, I'm already out of his house. I haven't seen him at this point in like 3 years. Why do I feel like I'm not good enough? Why do I feel like everyone's secretly going to abandon me? Why? And once I got honest with myself and I realized that, hold up, the common denominator is you, Lawrence. Yes, what happened to you is unfortunate, but I was the common denominator. So I started to see that, okay, if I'm causing problems somehow, some way, subconsciously, I'm doing stuff that leads people to get frustrated with me, let's change this. Let's look at myself. Let's work on me. And by working on me, I started to get out of that poor me mindset. And I started adding that towards YouTube. And people were like, you know what? Kind of resonate with this. Because, yeah, it's important for us to feel how we feel. It's important for us to validate what we went through. But where you have been and where you are is not where you'll always be. You're in the car of your life. You can decide to just be the driver, or you can decide to be the passenger. If you want to let life drag you wherever it wants to go, you can make that choice. Or you can make the choice to get on the gas pedal. And I got like desperate enough that I said, I'm figuring this out somehow. Somehow, some way, I'm making my life better. I'm going to feel better, even if I don't know how. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I look at that, and I grew up in abuse. I was the older sister. I did the same thing where I pulled the attention towards me whenever I could feel my father starting to spin up into whatever was going to set him off. And it took me a lot longer in life to get to where you're at. Like, I'm kind of amazed that as young as you were, I had to have decades of unhealthy relationships and decades of chasing career success because I thought that would be the thing that would validate me. If I was successful enough, I would be worthy of love. If I was well presented enough, I would be worthy of love. I chased that stuff for a long time. And so I'm kind of amazed that as young as you were, you said, this isn't who I am. This isn't my story. Do you understand the amount of self-awareness that it takes at that young of an age, really at any age, it's a good time to make that realization. But especially when you're dealing with puberty and middle school and high school and all of the uncertainties and switching households, in the midst of all that, to stop and say, no, this isn't my narrative. I understand this is part of my backstory, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to make something bigger with it. Like, do you understand how amazing that
Yeah. It often shocks myself too, because I'm like, Lawrence, how do you pull that off? Because it's really funny to me when I look back on it, and people meet me now and they're like, wow, you're so bubbly and happy and cheery, and oh my gosh, you're so happy. But I'm like, well, I spent 3 years of my life absolutely in the midst of incredible happiness, but then the very next moment, absolute intense sorrow. And I would bounce back and forth between these constantly. So one of the things that really helped me, because I love to give people easy, practical advice you can implement right now. Buy yourself a diary, write in it every day for the rest of your life. I promise you, you will realize things about yourself that you never noticed. For example, a lot of people I've met, it's very common you'll hear people say, oh, there's no good men in the world, or there's no good women in the world. There are great men and great women in the world. It's just we have poor decision making. Now, rather than blame ourselves and say, I just always end up in these situations, you have to admit that, but then you also have to say, well, why do I keep ending up in these situations? And it can feel challenging to go to your friend or go to your family member or go to somebody and say that to them. The diary don't judge you. The paper doesn't judge. It simply is there. And then you look at it. And the first week of journaling, you might not really notice much. Then the next week, you're like, I always end up with bad financial decisions because I'm impulsive. And then the third weekend, you'll be like, how can I stop being so impulsive? Then the fourth weekend, you'll be significantly less impulsive. All because you have now built the habit of self reflection. And after years of doing this, I have become so incredibly introspective that I know the thing I don't know, but I know that I know the solution to the thing I don't know. Another great thing for people to implement is a hobby that makes you feel at peace. Get some hobbies that also require you to go outside. If you don't get enough sunlight, your brain actually creates stress hormones. That's why if you stay in your room all day, and no, getting sunlight through a window doesn't count. Windows can't pass UV rays. You need direct sunlight. So go outside, get some fresh air, get some hobbies, get a journal, get a fitness routine of some sort. Could be walking, running, swimming, whatever you want to do. You don't need to be a bodybuilder. You just need to exercise your body. Also, this one was one of the hardest things I had to do. And it's going to be very hard, but trust me, it works. Don't complain about anything. Whenever you feel yourself about to complain, just swap it. Oh my gosh, you heard about what so and so did, and this person, and that person, that person. Instead of saying that, say, why do I care so much about the opinion and the actions of somebody I don't personally know? Then you'll start to realize, like, wait, how much time have I spent concerned about what people on Instagram are doing? And then you'll be like, let me stop doing that. And you'll start to focus on your own life. And by focusing on your own life, that'll bring you back to journaling, which helps you be more self-reflective, which then brings you back to the hobby that keeps you at peace, which then brings you back to taking better care of yourself. Bada bing, bada boom. Before you know it, 90% of problems are gone.
That's amazing. I love
Thank you.
that. And you're so right. I One of the things I talk about a lot, I had an accident back in 2012 and ended up with a lot of severe nerve damage. I had to relearn to walk from it. It essentially took my life and hit the reset button. And I lost a lot of friends in the process. It forced me to let go of a lot of the habits that I had created to maintain this carefully constructed image. And I had to just kind of flush all that and start from scratch.
Yeah.
And one of the things that truly I credit with coming back from it, both mentally but also physically, was weight training. I had never weight trained before that. But what I have learned in research since then is that consistent exercise, but specifically weight training, does a phenomenal job of helping to rewire your thinking. And so you're so absolutely right. And going outside. Being out in nature also helps to rewire whatever unhealthy habits or thoughts that you're having. They completely create a short change, and they also help to handle pain management. And so
Yes.
that's amazing that at 19 you're out there telling people to do this thing that scientists have spent all this time and money to determine, but also that like it is very it's very proven that these things make a lasting and significant difference.
Yes. A few things I want to highlight about weight training because I don't remember the exact statistic numbers off the top of my head, but it has been proven that being healthy is by far the best mental, physical, emotional, and probably even spiritual thing you can do.
Absolutely.
Because imagine you have a stroke, your body is thrashing around. You need to have enough physical strength to not snap yourself apart.
Yeah.
You're stressed out. When you work out, your brain actually releases the hormones that make you happy. Oh, you are frustrated, you're angry, you're like, I want to take this out on somebody. So put that into them weights.
It is amazing. It is
And
amazing.
ironically enough, the people at every gym I've gone to, like the biggest, strongest, meanest looking men, they're the sweetest because they're fully aware of what they're capable of. And when you're aware of what you're capable of, not just in a physical sense, but also I'm capable of achieving this goal. I'm capable of helping people. I'm capable of lifting a heavy box at work.
Yeah.
You walk through life with this bigger confidence of I am capable as a person. So I'm not saying that people need to go become bodybuilders. I'm not saying you got to go get a 10-inch waist.
No.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying get a consistent exercise routine of some sort. It could be anything. I just recommend weight training because if you're if you want to be able to play with your grandkids when you're older, weight training allowed you to do that.
It's made a huge difference in my life. And the other interesting thing that I have found in talking with so many people who weight train, those big burly guys almost always have some kind of traumatic backstory
Yep.
that lifting or working out has helped them work through and given them so much perspective and so much peace from. And so it's kind of amazing to be surrounded by all of these people that have got such healthy perspectives. And, they'll joke about how they're as toxic as anyone else, but you're right. Having spent a large amount of time with a lot of different bodybuilders and weight trainers, they tend to be incredibly introspective and well balanced.
Yeah, it's kind of a great metaphor I like to use to people is when you have 200 pounds over your chest and the only thing between you and absolute certain death is you, it reminds you that you can overcome the weight of life.
Yes.
Like the thing that got me into the gym really was when I was younger, I had like this intense anger and frustration at the world. It really sounds so cliche to say, but I really thought it was me versus the world. And I would work out like obsessively.
Yep.
Like we're talking 2, 3 hours. I'm working out dog tired. I'm mad. I put a weight bench in my backyard. I got a gym membership to every Planet Fitness like available, the $25 one. So if I'm ever frustrated, I can run to their Planet Fitness and go work out. Genuinely, weight training has probably has kept me out of prison. It wouldn't be that crazy to say.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, especially for men, when we're walking around all this anger and this frustration, you start to bottle it up. And that's when a lot of people resort to drugs or suicide or hurting other people, or they get these certain vices. I know one guy at my gym who he used to be a heroin addict. And I asked him, what keeps you from relapsing? Like out of real curiosity, because I know that's an incredibly addictive substance. Even people, when they've gone year without it, they still have thoughts. And I asked him, what keeps you from relapsing? He's like, oh, whenever I feel like relapsing, I come work out. Because now I'm too tired to go and get it. It's like, if you're too tired to do the bad thing, it makes staying on good track easier.
Well, and it's amazing how when I'm really struggling with things, because I do, life happens sometimes, and anytime I'm really struggling with something, I go and I lift. Number one, the repetitive motion of lifting, it takes all of your focus. So you're in the zone. Like you are there, you are present. You get a good song going, and it's just you get in that mindset. But I also work through things as I'm lifting. The repetitive motion, I'm in the back of my mind working through things. And it's crazy the number of times that I've either come to tears over something that just finally clicked while I'm lifting, or that I've had like an amazing breakthrough of something that I've been kind of noodling on for weeks, but by getting my conscious brain focused on a repetitive action, it lets that subconscious kind of work through things and untie them. It's probably my favorite way to cope with things when I'm feeling like life is heavy.
Yeah. And something you mentioned there too is your subconscious mind. So, just in case anybody might not know what that term means, think of your conscious mind as a book. Your subconscious mind is a library. So, right now, you are thinking, what is this guy talking about? What is this podcast about? What am I going to eat? That is your conscious thought, what you're thinking right now. Your subconscious is everything you've ever thought, ever done, ever said, ever heard, ever saw. It's everything. And it runs the show. You think that, oh, I'm in control of everything. Oh, I know everything. No, you don't. Your subconscious is running the show behind you. It's what causes you to always end up in the same kind of relationships. It's what causes you to self-sabotage. It's what causes you to do a thing over and over. The good thing, though, is if you become aware of this and you work on it, little by little, you can reprogram the subconscious mind to make you do the good thing. It's why people, after they keep going to the gym, all of a sudden they keep coming back without even thinking about it. Their subconscious has now thought, oh, every day at 10 a.m., we go to the gym. So somehow, some way, you always end up at the gym at or close to 10 a.m.
So, do you
So,
have any tricks that you've learned to help harness that subconscious?
okay, so there's three that I'm going to bring up.
Awesome.
The first one, again, journaling. The more you do it, the more you write it out, the more you become aware. And because you're now aware, you start to change your pattern. And by changing your pattern, it signals to your brain and your subconscious that, okay, things are different now. We don't do that anymore. We think differently. And little by little, you'll start to rewire it. The second one is meditation.
Mhm.
Now, usually when people hear that, they think of like a monk and he's sitting and he's chanting and all that. That's one way of doing it. But meditation in its simplest form is being aware. Journaling is a form of meditation because you're just being aware. Working out is a form of meditation. You're being aware. Fishing is a form of meditation because you're being aware. So when you're being aware and you're paying attention to your patterns, you can start to change things like, oh, need to do that anymore. And yeah, it's not going to immediately click everything, but if you do it long enough, there will be changes. And the third one. So before you fall asleep and right when you wake up, think about your dream life in vivid detail. Like, or it could be this thing you want to happen. You want to get this car. Okay, don't just think about the car. Think about driving the car from first person perspective. What does the outside of the car look like? What does the engine sound like? Does it have the new car smell or does it have like a worn car smell? What does the wheel look like? How does the seat feel? What is the interior? Because as you soak in the imagination and you sit in it, your brain genuinely doesn't know the difference between reality and what you think. This is why if you think somebody is bad and they're evil and they're so mean and I don't like them, you're going to find that. So it imprints into your mind the thought of this thing. And over and over and over and over, if you cement that thought in there, it becomes a part of the subconscious. It becomes a part of your wiring. So if you want to go even deeper on that subject, within the context of money, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, fantastic book. For most of the book, he does not talk about money whatsoever. He talks about how to think yourself into the subconscious patterns of somebody who is rich. Outwitting the Devil is also a really good one. It was such a great book that when he originally published it, it got banned until like 2005. And he died in 1940
Wow.
because it talks about not only how the subconscious influences around you, like the music, the TV, the news, everything, how it affects your brain and leads people to being stuck in these bad patterns.
That's so true. And it's interesting how when you have a preconceived notion of what your life is about, like when you have those preconceived notions, life will serve more things that essentially confirm that bias. You probably
Yep.
put the term confirmation bias. But when you shift your vision, it's crazy how you will start to see more of the things in the new vision start to fall into place. And
Yes.
the point remains, you've not changed anything externally. The only thing you've changed is your ability to see it. But suddenly opportunities start to arise that would have arisen anyway, but you may not have seen because you were so biased to the negative. Whereas
Yes.
when you've shifted your vision to the positive, you start to see little bitty holes that are like, oh, you know what? I bet you I could do this. And
Yeah.
things start just effortlessly fall into place. I love being in that place. I always call it being in the flow, where
Yeah.
when you shift your vision onto what you want, things just flow and it is so much fun. It's almost like being a composer of an orchestra where you're just standing there letting the components move around you. And I love that. I love that space.
Yeah. That confirmation bias is huge because can't remember the exact number, but it's around if you converted the amount of information your brain takes in per second into computer data, it's like 9 million bits.
Wow.
You don't need to understand what a bit is, it's just a little piece of information on a computer. However, the amount that your brain can process at any given moment is actually more like 60. So, more than 99.99% of reality is filtered out. The
Wow.
thing that determines what you see is called your reticular activating system. So you get a car, right? You get a red Nissan Altima, very specific car. Now, all of a sudden, you see a bunch of red Nissan Altimas. Why? It's not that all of a sudden everybody bought that car. No, it's because you have that car. Your brain is focusing on that car, so it highlights that car. And whatever you highlight mentally, like, I'm never going to succeed.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna win. They're not gonna like me. She's probably gonna reject me. He's probably mean. Everyone's so bad. Your brain doesn't care how you feel about it. It just cares what you tell it.
Yeah.
So if you keep telling the computer, find bad information, it'll find it. It's not
Absolutely.
that all of a sudden everyone's mean to you. No, your brain will highlight the bad.
Yeah.
It won't highlight the good because you told it not to. And then tomorrow you wake up and say, okay, I'm going to highlight the good from now on. But you have years of code saying highlight the bad. Before you can start to highlight all the good, you have to undo the years of highlighting the bad. So, one great way I recommend people do that is consciously tell yourself that person's going to be nice to me. And even if they're not, if they're mean to you, just say, the next one's going to be nice to me. The next one's going to be nice to me. The next one's going to be nice to me. And soon enough, the next one will. And then there's going to be another one. And then another one. And just by sheer amount of effort and reprogramming, you'll start to realize that, hey, life is actually a lot better than I thought it was.
That is so true. And it is amazing how all you have to do is shift your energy, because not only does it change your perception, but also it shifts the energy that you're putting out. So when you're starting to say, okay, you know what? Everybody loves me. I am
Yeah.
amazing. People love me. I enter a room. I bring so much positive energy. Even people that may not have been as receptive to you before, they start to pick up your shift in intention. And when I worked in the corporate world, I did that without realizing that's what I was doing. Before I would enter a room, I worked in sales, I worked in marketing, I did relationship management. Anytime I knew I was going into a really hard meeting, I would spend a couple of minutes before I entered the room saying, you know what, I'm going to rock this. They're going to love me. I'm going to walk in there. They're going to feel the sincerity in my voice. They're going to buy my XYZ, or they're going to want to create a relationship with me, and we're going to save this account, or whatever it was that I want the outcome to be. Before
Yeah.
I entered that room, I set an intention. And it was before I knew anything about the importance of your mind or any of that. I just inherently knew that if I set out with an intention and shifted my energy, it would get reflected back to me.
Yeah.
And
And
it's so powerful.
it really is. Like, there's been so many studies done on this, even though it's an inherent thing that we all know. It kind of sounds a bit like this woo-woo nonsense
It
when you
does.
talk about your energetic
Yes.
aura and your
Yeah.
presence, but no, if you if you read any religious book, any sacred text of any form, they all say it.
Yeah.
Every last one.
Yeah.
Or you could just think of it this way. You ever met somebody and you're like, they seem angry. Nothing about them said they're angry. Nothing about them has angry body language. Nothing out their mouth said they're angry, but you just know they're angry. We have these things called mirror neurons, where it's these cells in your brain where their one and only job is make you do what those around you do. This is why you and I both speak English, because we were around people who spoke English. This is why people from South Florida dress very similar to people in South Florida, because that's what you're around. Your brain is like, oh, okay, for survival purposes, I need to become a part of the tribe or the lion is going to eat me. And we also, because of that, have evolved to be able to sense other people's emotions
Yeah.
and your feelings. And the energy and emotions and thoughts that you hold in yourself put out this signal to other people and to the universe and says, okay, give me what is in alignment with my signal. It doesn't matter what you want, it matters what you are. And if you are somebody who thinks the world is evil and out to get you and terrible and crazy, you're going to find that. Crazy, terrible stuff will happen, and your brain is going to highlight it. You're not going to pay attention to the people who gave out food to the homeless. You're not going to pay attention to the fact the sun is shining. You're not going to pay attention to the fact that you're not living in the middle of Iraq during a war zone. No, you're going to pay attention to the guy who just fell off his bike and snapped his neck. Yeah, that's terrible, but 99.99% of the day, it was only great stuff. But your brain says, no, let's put the 40 bits of information on the bad thing because that's what they've conditioned me to go focus on.
It's interesting how that works, isn't it? And I remember a long time ago, I read a quote and it kind of shifted my perspective towards the world. And it says, everybody brings joy to a room. Some people bring joy when they enter a room, and some people bring joy to a room when they leave the room. And and the thing is, as soon as I read that, I was like, I could think of people in both camps. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be one of the people that brings joy when I leave. I want to be one of those people that brings joy when I come. And I will say that I may not have always been a person that brought joy when I came. Like I grew up around people that brought joy when they left, and I perceived that that's how relationships worked, was that it was always a power struggle. But once I made a conscious shift to be the other kind of person, it's amazing how often people be like, oh man, I was having such a rough day, but I'm so grateful that I ran into you and had this interaction. And it's so rewarding to be someone who brings joy where I go, because I think that a lot of people don't realize the amount of self-healing, but also the benefit that it gives you to be someone that positively impacts others. And I think that is such a powerful thing to experience. And it does such an amazing job of uplifting if you focus, instead of going into a room and be like, okay, here's what I need to get out of it. Instead, you look at, okay, how am I going to bring good to this interaction?
Yeah. It's so ironic too how it works, because people often go through life with this take mindset, because unfortunately it's often rewarded. Like if you grow up around people who think, I need the most, I need to get everything, I need to get as much as I can for myself. Of course, you need to have money and take care of yourself and have nice things for you. That's not a bad thing there. The bad part comes when now we're hoarding. Now we're focusing on how much can I take. And again, that puts out an energetic signal to the universe that, oh, if you have to constantly take, that must mean that you don't have enough. Because when you have enough and you're happy and you're in a state of abundance and prosperity, you don't take. You don't go out and have to take other people's joy.
Yeah.
You already have it.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, it's kind of like the universe, God, whatever you believe in, is sitting there and it's like, well, what are you doing? Because whatever you're doing is reflective of what's going on internally. And what I've noticed, both in terms of business, in terms of life, in terms of opportunities, is the more you give, the more you over deliver, the more you give to others, the world, people, opportunities will give back to you. A great example of this. So prior to about 6 months ago, when I wanted to get on a podcast or go on a stage or go to an organization, I would have to first manually figure out where it is, manually figure out the contact information of that person, custom write an email to them, send the email out, manage it myself, handle all of that for every single one. It's a very boring, very tedious process.
Yes, it is.
Then I began like, okay, I'm going to just start giving to the world even more. I started posting more free content, started writing more books, started giving to the world. And I stumbled across a guy on Instagram who he's a speaker too. I saw this guy and I'm like, oh, he's doing what I want to do. Let me DM him. So I DM'd him and said something along the lines of, I'm really loving your content. I'm new to, well, at this point, I wasn't necessarily new to speaking. I've been in it for like 3 years. But I'm not like Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
He's got like 50 years of experience or something. So I DM'd him and we had a little conversation. And I asked him, well, do you have any tips or advice that you can give me? I just want to get better. He said, okay, here's a link to a free networking group. Join it tomorrow. So I go in and I end up having a conversation with the guy who owns this company. His name is Ron. Fantastic man. He heard my story. I introduced myself to the group. And he says, you know what? We're going to let you join this lifetime for free because we need more people like you out here. This service that helped me to manage email addresses, send out pitches, helped me so many ways. It is $300 a month, but I got it for free. All because I went in there with the intention of giving value to people, being humble enough to say, I'm still working on this, and being willing to listen. People can't help you if you're not willing to listen, if you're
Yeah.
not humble enough to ask, and if you're not even showing up. This is something I grew up seeing a lot. Have you ever heard of the term someone wanting to be put on?
No.
So it's usually used in the music industry. The term basically means when you haven't been putting any work in, you haven't been doing anything, and your family member or your friend or somebody you know becomes very successful, and you say, hey, put me in the game, let me on the team. You did all the work to get to the NBA. I want you to let me in without me going to practice. That's a very take mindset. Like, what can I get?
Yeah.
But the people who are willing to give, the people who are showing up, the people who put the work in, because this is something Ron mentioned too. They went to my Instagram and saw, oh, he's got 300 videos of him doing this. This guy's been putting in the work. People who are successful, people who have achieved a goal, they love it. They love to help people
Yes.
if you've been putting in the work.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where I'm trying to come up with what the saying is, but it's essentially results. There's a saying, and I am so struggling to come up with what it is right now, but essentially results follow effort. But it's a flow thing. When you look at the meandering of a river and people look at something like the Grand Canyon and you think, oh, that's this amazing canyon. It must have just naturally formed that way. Maybe, crevices were there already and the river fall. No, the river very methodically and consistently over time wore away bit by bit at the path that it wanted to go.
Yeah.
And you can easily get lost in the idea that, I'm putting in all this work and I'm not seeing any results. And when I used to manage sales teams, I would use the analogy of, have you ever seen one of those old-fashioned water pumps?
Yeah. Where like a shape like this and you got to crank it.
And with those, the way that they work is you're cranking, and you won't see anything. And you'll get to a point, at least for me, I always inevitably get to the point where I'm like, is there any water here? Like I'm not hearing water, I'm not seeing water, I'm just cranking and hoping that something's going to happen. And when you get to that point, you've got two choices that you can make. You can keep cranking on blind faith, or you can say, you know what, I'm not seeing any results, I'm going to go and find something else.
Yeah.
And usually when you keep going on blind faith, within like 2 or 3 more seconds, you'll start to hear the water gurgle. And then you'll do a couple more cranks, and then you'll get this huge spurt of water. And that's where there's another set of choices. You can say, you know what? I've got this first gush of water. I'm going to let it go. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to continue the momentum. And it's not going to be the amount that it took me to get here, but I'm going to continue to work at it just a little bit to keep the flow of water going. Or you say, you know what? I got it started. I'm going to quit now. And when you do that, then you get that initial rush of results, but then it quits. And those two decision points are where 90% of people fail. They either A, don't stick with it long enough to see the results of the thing that they started based on blind faith. And when you start something on blind faith, you have to be willing to see it through because you know that it's going to work.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'd usually compare it to fishing. So fishing is by far one of my favorite things in the world. On every podcast, every interview, every speech I do, somehow, some way, I will always bring up fishing because it is a fantastic metaphor for everything. So the reason why a lot of people don't fish is you will almost never catch a fish on your first cast. You will almost never catch a fish on your 10th. You'll almost never catch it on your 15th. But I bet you if you cast that thing 1,000 times, if that water has fish, you will have a bite. You might not catch it, but you'll have a bite. And then you have to learn that, okay, if I just keep fishing, I'll get something. And like you just mentioned, I would say even more than 90% of people, the reason why they don't get the thing they want is they don't see it through.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if a really common goal I hear is people come to me, especially teenagers, young adults, because that's who I talk to, and they say, Lawrence, I want to get into speaking. I want to achieve this goal. I want to start my business. I want to do this. I want to do that. I asked them, how many years are you willing to do it without seeing a penny? How many years are you willing to do it every day without seeing a penny? Because if you're not willing to do it for 3 years unpaid and all you're getting is likes and comments, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because when I got into speaking, I would just, on YouTube, I would have 2 views a video. If I got 10, I felt fantastic. I'm like, I got 10 views. That's 10 people who decided to click my thing. And for years, I would only get maybe like 100 views. And I'm trying all these different things. I'm trying thumbnails, I'm trying hashtags, I'm posting on TikTok, I'm doing everything. But because I just didn't give up, now I made something out of this. And
it's that superhero power.
know.
It's one of those things where I say you have to be successful, you have to be too stupid to quit.
Yeah.
When like, normal logic is like, this is dumb. I'm not seeing any progress. Give up now because it's not going anywhere. You have to be stupid enough to be like, you know what? Nope. I started this for a reason. I'm going to see it through for a reason and continue on.
And that reason too, you also have to have a reason a lot bigger than just yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's important that, we have goals for ourselves. Like, okay, I want to lose 5 pounds so I feel better and I can fit into this dress or fit into this suit. I want to build muscle. I want to make more money. I want to have a big house. Okay, cool, great. But when it comes to business goals, you have to have a reason bigger than just, I want to make money. Mm-hmm. If your reason is make money, just get a job.
Yeah.
Done. But if your reason is something like, I want to help teens and young adults love themselves, start a business for that. I want to feed the starving children. I want to help end homelessness. I want to make sure that inner city urban environments have access to clean drinking water. Start a business for that. Because on the nights when you feel like giving up, and this has happened to me plenty of times, on them nights when you feel like giving up, on them nights when you're like, man, this isn't working, I should just quit. No one's buying my thing. No one's showing up to my event. It's not working. Let me throw the towel in. That bigger reason in the back of your head, like, think about the starving children. Think about the kids who need motivation. Think about how important it is to have clean drinking water. Think about how important it is that people feel beautiful, like for hairdressers or barbers. I genuinely believe that barbers have saved a lot of people's lives.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like go see a man before he has a haircut and
Yeah.
then after he has a haircut.
Yeah.
Watch how much straighter his posture is. He's more confident. He's looking people in their eyes. His handshake is better. He's like every aspect of men's life somehow improves when we get a good haircut. His dating life is better. His home life is better. He ends up making more money. He's more dedicated to his goals. He feels better about himself. Everything becomes better when you're working on this goal or this business or this idea and you have that bigger why.
Yeah. This is great. I unfortunately have to get my kids ready for BJJ, but Lawrence, this has been amazing. Like
I appreciate it.
It's cool to see. I don't want to be dismissive and say as young as you are, but it is cool to see. I'm gonna say as young as you are.
I understand it.
But it's cool to see that like you have made such a shift in your life from as early as you have, and that you've made so much headway already. And I know that this is just the drop in the bucket. Like amazing things are clicking into place for you.
Thank you. I'm gonna leave the audience with this too. Just remember that, hey, me at 19, this entire journey began at 12. So 7 years. 7 years is long enough to get a college degree. It's 1 year short of getting 2 degrees. It's almost long enough to get a PhD. I think a PhD is like 10 years. Yeah, it's almost long enough to get a PhD in something. So if you spent 7 years focused on how am I going to make my mind better? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to make my life better? How am I going to be an inspiration to myself and others? You're going to make some big changes in your life. And also, in case any of you guys want to stay up to date on what I do, you can find all my social media handles are Lawrence C. Empowers. It's just my name. And so is my website. My website is just lawrenceharris.com.
And I'll put
Easy,
a link,
plain and simple.
and I'll put a link to all those in the show notes. This has been wonderful. And I honestly go out and look through Lawrence's content because it is full of all kinds of little interesting nuggets that are so insightful and they're very easy to digest. I love that because like you just pull them up and I just ran through them one after the other, and it's kind of like having your own little conversation with Lawrence. It's neat to see where his brain is processing on a given day. Well, thank you so much for this, and honestly, anytime you want to come on, shoot me a note because this is amazing, and I know that as you grow and evolve, you're going to have even more to share. So I would love to have you on again if you're interested.
Of course, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and I hope the rest of your day is wonderful.
Thank you. I hope yours is too. Have fun with your kids.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Caroline's Adventure podcast. While you're here, subscribe to the show so you're the first to catch new episodes when they're released. And if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, please leave a 5-star rating. For links to social media and more content, visit the description for this episode or go to carolinesadventure.com. That's Caraline with 2 A's, adventure.com.